I would like to just tell you shortly the story of the first boats that went into Gaza. When we sailed in, people began to swim out to the boats to greet us, because we were the first foreign boats to come into Gaza in 40 years. More than 40,000 people came out to greet us. That's how isolated and how the international community allows Israel to isolate 1.5 million people to that degree over the last 15 years or more is really something that our governments have to be held accountable for. I think what's important to understand, the common theme all the way through, from the very beginning until today, is that this is political. That the message is breaking the siege of Gaza. This is not a humanitarian effort. In other words, the idea isn't to bring in medicines to these poor people, or bring in food, or bring in, it is a humanitarian crisis. But what the people of Gaza will tell you is that it's a humanitarian crisis whose roots are political. It's a result of a political policy. This isn't an earthquake. This isn't a flood. This is a political form of oppression, and therefore anything that deflects from that casts the Palestinians of Gaza as somehow victims. And, this whole humanitarian language is something that actually works against the long-term interests of the Palestinians, and certainly works against trying to break the siege and end the occupation and lead genuinely to a liberation of the Palestinian people. So that this was a siege, a sailing to break the siege of Gaza. Now, at the same time, when you come to someone's home as a guest, you don't come with empty hands. So we asked the Palestinians, the people of Gaza, we want to bring something of symbolic importance. We do want a symbolic gesture of friendship, of support for you, even though the message is political. What should we bring? What do you need? Or, whatever. What should we bring as a kind of a gift, in a sense? And the answer was really an amazing answer, something I had really no realization of. You know what they asked us for? 9,000 pairs of hearing aids for children. Why? Because it turns out that the noise of the war, that the children, the general population, but the children in particular are exposed to, is deafening. Not only the artillery and Israel shooting missiles and so on, but what we weren't really aware of, because it goes under the radar, is that when Israel wants to punish the people of Gaza, or when it wants to send them a message, as we say, what it does is it sends its fighter airplanes, which are American fighter airplanes. We have to always remember this is an American-Israeli, and the Canadians certainly have a hand in it, but this is an American-Israeli occupation. The weaponry, the political support, the financial support is American. It couldn't last a week without American support. So these are F-16s, American F-15s, fighter jets, and what Israel does is it flies them low, maybe 30 feet over the ground, and break the sound barriers. Now, you've never experienced that. I haven't either. Because in every country in the world, pretty much, it's illegal for planes to break the sound barrier over cities, or to fly that low. When there's a jet airplane a mile in the sky, you look up. I mean, that's how much, it gets our attention. That we can't really imagine the noise, the terrifying noise of jets flying at that speed, that power, that noise, right over your heads and breaking the sound barrier. That absolutely is a deafening experience. It can crack buildings. It can crumble buildings. It smashes glass, certainly. But that's not the end of the story. It's not even close to the end of the story. Israel sends in its jet planes low to break the sound barrier every 3 minutes for 48 hours. It's a form of collective torture. It's intended to terrify the people. It's intended to deprive them of sleep. Certainly it traumatizes the children. I mean, you can't, we don't have any sense of the traumatized children that exist in Gaza. And it's deafening. And we really only became aware of it. I mean, it's never really been publicized. Because, again, it's under the radar. It's not a physical attack. Nobody's killed. It's not part of any operation or any war. So it happens. It happens, and no one ever reports on it. So that was the part of the background of us coming into Gaza. I just want to tell you one story, because I don't have a lot of pictures, but Gaza doesn't get enough electricity. Israel blocks the electricity. It blocks the food of Gaza. It's a planned, deliberate, almost scientific form of oppression. What Israel's done, the Ministry of Defense, they have a committee of people, including doctors. Israeli doctors participate in this. And they've gotten charts from the World Health Organization, from the UN, on the caloric requirements of people. So they've calculated of 1.5 million people of Gaza, how many are older people, how many are middle-aged, how many are younger, how many are children, how many are babies, men, women, how many people have this kind of a disability, that kind of an illness. They've really done a breakdown of the Palestinian population of Gaza, and then calculated for each category what is the minimum caloric requirement of that category of person, and that is then shipped into Gaza in a certain number of trucks, something like 140 to 200 trucks a day, to keep the people of Gaza really on a starvation diet. And in fact, Dov Weissglass, who was the main advisor to Ariel Sharon when he was prime minister, said that the Gazans have to get used to living on a diet. And it won't kill them. And why won't it kill them? Because the international community, through the Red Cross and UN organizations and the World Vision and CARE and so on, make up that slack, keep the Palestinians' heads this much above water, above malnutrition and starvation, which for me is an indication that this humanitarian approach, humanitarian aid, is actually what enables the occupation. Israel can get away with this because it and the international relief organizations managed to keep the Palestinians this much above starvation. The Palestinians really represent the 2/3 of humanity. The 2/3 of humanity that are what the capitalist system, this is a term that's used, and we're in a church. I think this is one of the greatest theological concepts of our day. 2/3 of humanity are called surplus humanity. They're surplus humanity. They're written off. Our job as civil society people, as the people, especially in terms of the Israel-Palestine conflict, but widening it out, is twofold. One, we have to keep pushing. We have to push governments constantly, and we have to, in the end, push so that either the bad governments fall or that the policy changes. But when it does change, we have to be the watchdogs to be sure that a worse system isn't instituted, when a bad system falls. So the job of the people is there. We have to keep the Palestine, the occupation, and our struggle against the occupation, and the flotillas and these important initiatives at the forefront. And the time is right for another flotilla to Gaza to keep the public pressure, keep the attention on.